This is attorney Andy Freeman. For y'all that don't know, now you know. The best attorney, civil rights attorney, Randolph Shepherd advocate, my buddy. And he can tell you about the Don that would kick ass, you know, using the legal system, right? Take it away.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my very first case was Morris versus Maryland. So I got out of law school in 1986. I clerked for a federal judge. I started at what was then Brown and Goldstein on November 1st, 1987. And before the month of November was up, we got a call, I guess from Dr. Jernigan. I didn't take the call, to Dan Goldstein, saying that there were these crazy Maryland vendors who had stopped paying their set-aside and thought that the state of Maryland ought to actually comply with the law that had been passed 13 years before and come up with some new regulations, and had been threatened, all of them, to be terminated if they didn't start paying their set-aside. And Don had this crazy idea that no, the law actually meant what it said it did, and he'd be happy to pay his set-aside as soon as Maryland started complying with the law. And he didn't give an inch. And he was prepared at that point to lose his license if Maryland didn't come into compliance and pass new regulations. And it was a pleasure, a little bit frightening pleasure, because we had, he was confident, I wasn't quite so confident. And that was the beginning of a lot of really good times. And all the things that Mr. Jernigan said, all the great memories of Don and Shirley, welcoming all of us as we got to convention every year. I expanded to Don and Shirley and Don and Priscilla, who always read, Shirley and Don Hudson and Priscilla Hudson, who always, Priscilla and Shirley took over the welcome at convention every year and made sure everything went smoothly and we all got checked in. I don't want to take a whole lot of time, but I do, as I say, we started there. I'll share one other story. So Don, he had a great sense of humor. Sometimes it was an off-color sense of humor. Sometimes it was, sometimes you laughed, sometimes you groaned. But I had the opportunity to represent Don one other time when he almost got himself thrown out again, running his facility out of Emmitsburg. As many of you know, that was the National Fire Academy. Firefighters from all over the country came. They were mostly men. They were mostly what you would expect of firefighters. And apparently, if you knew the right person to ask, or you could ask at the desk, they weren't on display, but there were sort of off-color greeting cards hidden behind the desk at Emmitsburg. And somehow the state found out about it and decided that they were going to use that as an excuse to terminate Don's license for selling off-color greeting cards. So Don hired me, and we fought it on First Amendment grounds, but in addition to having a great sense of humor, Don was also a great businessman. And Don's idea, which I managed to execute, was he was perfectly happy to give up selling those greeting cards in exchange for getting the 2 rooms across the hall to expand his facility. And that was the deal we cut. So as I say, he was a great businessman. He ran a wonderful facility out there, serving firefighters from all over the country, and then really was just selfless in his leadership of the Maryland Merchants, of the National Association of Blind Merchants, and then, as the NFB always does, sort of seeing to it that there was great succession, from Don to Kevin to Nikki to folks like Melba, so that this organization just keeps getting bigger and better. But it was a pleasure knowing him and an honor knowing him, and a lot of smiles knowing Don.
Two good surprises. Now, on to the regularly scheduled program. Nikki is waiting. Nikki could not be here in person. Nikki Cake is the president of the National Association of Blind Merchants. So he just texted me, he's like, am I supposed to call you? You're supposed to call me. So Steve, please get Nikki on the phone. I had to text and say, Andy's talking right now. We're gonna call you in a second. So the next voice you will hear will be that of Nikki Hickes, I hope. I had two wonderful surprises tonight, so that's why we were a little late calling you. Mary Ellen Jernigan came in, and I definitely had to hand her the mic.
Absolutely.
And then Andy Freeman came in. I had invited him, but he didn't respond. He just showed up. He knew he was coming, okay. So, sorry about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause for Nikki Vegas.
Can you hear me?
You guys here?
Okay. Well, I'm sorry that I'm not with you in person to pay tribute to my good friend Don Mars tonight. But as I told Fred this morning, I will be there on January the 6th to speak and be with you guys then, and I hope you have a great convention and stay safe. But I do want to talk about my friend Don. Don was one of the first people that I met when I got into Randolph Sheppard, and it really changed my life. I can honestly say that Don was one of the smartest people I ever met, and also one of the toughest persons I ever met. He could be very tough, but he was very smart, which I love everything about Randolph Sheppard, to life, to investments, to whatever, except that horse lady boy. I think everything else he did right. There's a lot of things. The one thing that I know is that what I missed more this year than anything was not getting that phone call from Don on my birthday. And not calling him on his birthday just a few weeks ago. He always remembered my birthday. It was something I always remember. He called three of my 6 numbers. And instead of always left messages, or when I talked to him, it was always big conversations until he told me certain jokes that he told me a couple times. I still laugh about it and stuff like that. And it's also an honor when you have 2 people from Hudson County, New Jersey, speaking about Don and Maryland, Sharon Manecki and myself. I think that's pretty something that tells you special. Don did a lot. I mean, let's just look at the merchants, being the president, putting it together. It really, one of the things that people may not know about was that when I came into the organization, I didn't know much about the Federation. I didn't know much about the merchants who weren't very big. I asked Don once about that later, and he said, because we're federations first, and then we're merchants. The other organization is vendors, and then they may be affiliated with ACB or not. But, Randolph Sheppard Vendors of America was the vending organization. They came to me, they said, you need to be part of it. I did, and then after a while, I said, I gotta get out of this organization before I spend time with Don. And Don and I worked very hard with Dr. Jernigan to merge the 2 organizations. And became very, very, very close, and that's one of my goals that I did promise to Don before he passed, that I will still make that happen, and we're very close to doing that. Before Dr. Jernigan died, Don and I thought we had a merger done between the 2 organizations for vending, not just for vending. And we met at the National Center, the 2 boards. The Merchants Division passed a motion to call it the Randolph Sheppard Vendors of America Division of the National Federation of Block. It passed unanimously. I put the motion on the floor. The president of RSBA, Ray Washburn, seconded, and it got voted down. And I left that day and joined the Federation and went to my first convention and got a 1-year board seat. Don made me a promise he would get me a board seat, but one of my good friends said, well, we don't know if we can trust this guy. He's from that other organization. So I got a 1-year board seat, and now I've been president for 10 years. So I think that I can be trusted now. But Don did more than just, when you think that he came up with the name and was the starter of BLAST, Business Leadership and Superior Training, it was very, every time that when we came to BLAST every year, I would talk with Don about agenda items and ideas that he thought about. He spoke at BLAST and was the recipient of the Gold Star Award. And just, his heart was always in blindness, always in the Federation, and always in the merchants. And that's what I loved about Don. And he was a family man too, which was also something. When we went to National Convention, I went to dinner many, many times, many nights on the 4th of July with Don and Shirley and the Hudsons. And they treated me like, part of the family. I was always there running around doing snack packs. And who started snack packs? Well, that was Don Hudson, Don Works, another thing that he started. I'll never forget the first time I came to a convention, he said, put a couple boxes of Twizzlers with candy in your suitcase. And, you know, we're gonna sell these things for $5, we're gonna make some money for the merchants. And then after a couple of years, as you know, we started getting deliveries from Vistar. It became a major thing, and I wish, you know, someday maybe, who knows, maybe this year in July in New Orleans, we'll bring back snapbacks or something, honor of Don or something. But Don was a mentor to me. He was, you know, taught me so many things. I mean, even when I was a part of the Merchants Union of the Federation, you know, I brought him to New Jersey to speak to our statewide meeting, and he did such a great job talking about Randall Shepard, talking about the Federation, talking about life in general as a blind person, and everything that he, you know, that did to it. Like, every time, the more I spoke with him, the more I called him on the phone, the more I did things, you know, with Don. It was just amazing the things that he taught me, and I still remember, you know, those things today and stuff. Would always call me and tell me, keep up the good work, you need anything, what can I do for you, that type of thing. So it always was great to hear that and talk about that. In fact, before I recall, I went and poured myself a scotch, because if you know Don, he loved the scotch on the rocks, you know, there's a lot of movement and stuff, so I did that. When I was a member of the Merchants Division, one of the first things that happened was I bid on Fort Dixon, New Jersey, and won the interview by 12 points. And somehow, because of seniority or something, I ended up losing the location. And Don said, we're not going to put up with this. We're going to show you that the Federation's going to back you. And we're going to help with Andy Friedman and Don, Dr. Maurer, and the Federation. We ended up winning that, and you know, winning a couple $100,000 for that. Which we paid back our lawyers' fees, and you know, and that was big that Don supported me, and now those are things I'll never forget. But the thing that I think about more than anything is, and this is the kind of guy that Don Morris was, these are things that people don't know about it, but a number of years ago, right after 9/11, so I guess that's 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with lymphoma cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I was in a hospital, it was a Saturday, and I was going up for my other tests and other CAT scans to see if I had cancer anywhere else but in my throat area. And I was getting scans of my head, neck, chest, pelvis, abdomen, everywhere and stuff. And when I came back to the room around 11 o'clock that morning, there were two people sitting in my room, and it was Don and Shirley Morris. They had driven up from Maryland the night before. They never told me. Got a hotel room, had dinner, and spent the day with me the next day. And those are things that not many people know about Don, but that just showed the friendship and type of person that Don was. Don would help people with Social Security, Don would help people with merchants things, Don would help people with Randall Shepard, Don would help people with blindness issues. But never do, you know, a lot of people didn't know about the times that he served. You know, Melvin Italian, somebody Fred, so many others. I'm sure Andy talked about it. You know, about the times in BISA and the work that he did on the committee and the work that he did on, you know, with the vending when they had it with BISA, and so many things that he did to improve the program, lower the set aside. Andy's first case, I'm sure he talked about that. But that was the type of person Don Morris was. He was a friend, he was a mentor, he was a husband, he was a father, and he was a brother to me. And I love Don Morris, I can say that. You know, and I'm gonna cry. I cried when I got the message from Melvin that morning and stuff. But, you know, I know Don had suffered a lot, but he never gave up. You know, he showed up at a convention in Florida, even though he thought he would never see it, he went to visit him, you know, still come to convention and stuff, because that's what he loved. He loved to see his friends and his family. It's just something about that we need to learn from, you know, and it's you don't find many people, if you won't find more people like Don Morris, and that's what we need. You know, like I said, he could be tough. We all know that. But you know what? He was tough in a good way. And that's not a big characteristic. Everybody, like I said, the other man loved his family, did so much. And little things that I always let David always sit and talk on the phone, you know, always say, oh, what a great set. That's my ATM machine, making it money, just sit here making money. I love to make money. And that's something about it, and that's how they have to be. And he always told me one thing, he always said too, now I don't understand these guys that make a lot of money, they start showing it off, driving these big cars, and sometimes Randall Shepherd has to be the best I've seen. He said, you know, we have 2 cars. He said, we have a Buick and a Mercedes. He said, when we go to work, we drive the Buick. We go to Baltimore for a meeting, when we go out to dinner, we'll drive the Mercedes. Or we go to work, we drive the Buick. And I just laughed and said, yeah, he's pretty right, you know. We don't need to show people our abilities, that we're, that kind of stuff. But Don made me laugh. I still think about it all the time. You know, he's just talking so much of life. And this year, he was here to celebrate with us. But you know what? It's great when you can celebrate the life of somebody. And I hope that you remember some of these stories that you're going to hear this weekend and hear again in January when you see his family and stuff. And, you know, it's just, he's a great man. I'm glad that I got to spend time with him, and I got to talk with him, and got to learn from him. He was my friend, and he was my brother. I love Don, and I love him so much. Thank you, Melba, for inviting me. Thank you for being part of this. On all the time, you know, the stories he told in Iowa, and you know, learning mobility from Mrs. Jernigan and stuff, and you know, the things that he did, and you know, all these great storytelling, just a great storytelling. And it's great to learn by those stories, you know, and we miss him very much. Many of our board members don't know, but we love him as a past president. But he never went away. He always showed up to merchants meetings, right, Melvin, at convention, and always showed up, and always talked, always spoke, you know, and I always teased him. I said, you know, you guys in Maryland, I know something about Maryland, you guys live here. You know, you have George Abbott, Glover, and Pauline Van Sickle, and all these guys who live here. I said, I'm gonna move to Maryland. I'm in my career, so Randall Shepherd Bender and stuff, but, you know, it's, I don't know what else I can say. I miss him, and I love him, and I'm glad that I got to know him. I'm glad he was part of my life, my wife's life, my family's life, and everything. I wouldn't be not where I am today as a blind person and as an entrepreneur if it wasn't for Don Morris. Rest in peace, Don. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We love you too. And
We'll see you in January.
We'll see you January 6th.
Have a great convention.
Yes, we will. We will. Thank you, my brother. All right. Bye-bye.